Remember Pokemon Conquest? We really need some more of that. So hey, this is Gatorex, and yeah, let's just talk about Pokemon Conquest for a bit. Now this is coming off of earlier this week. Pokemon posted this little tweet that says Pokemon Conquest was released on this day in 2012 on the Nintendo DS family systems. In this unique turn-based strategy game, trainers build a strong bond with their Pokemon in order to unite the vast Ransei region. Now, this is a fun game. I obviously own it, as you saw, and this is a great fun post, and I feel like they're doing a little more of these anniversary posts. We don't see them every year. You'll see them on something like This Day in History by Cerebi or something like that, but to be acknowledged by the official Pokemon account is kind of something nice. And of course, they're all like, oh, what's your favorite memory playing Pokemon Conquest? And of course, good amount of replies and so on and so on. This one was a funny one, please remember, retro video game, no play, only remember, because, yeah, the DS is an interesting one because, yeah, while the games that came out on the DS were great and cool, and they could also be played on the 3DS, things are a little weird going forward. With the Nintendo Switch, obviously, it's pretty easy to put on games from the GameCube, the N64, the Game Boy, and so on. And we have those already so far, and hopefully we're building out that library even more of a Switch Online stuff, or even just straight up ports like we saw with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green earlier this year. But with the DS, that's a bit of an odd one. You wonder if they'll do it. Obviously, there's all the talk of like doing whatever other attachments, or now that you have the Joy-Con, you can use the Joy-Con as a mouse. There's that. I don't really know, but I will say that obviously I have recently played Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs, as on the main channel we were continuing the stream series of playing a Pokemon Ranger game every summer, and so now I've basically finished it, and I was playing those on the Wii U Virtual Console, which the Wii U is a whole separate beast. Obviously you got the gamepad. Oh wait, no, we have the hand cam. Actually, no, never mind. That's gonna be super reflective, and it's not gonna fill up. But we got the Wii U gamepad because, like I said, I was just streaming that here, and it's a lot easier to play emulated games for the DS because obviously you got your TV, you got the little touchpad here, and you can do some fun little arrangements and so on, right? But for a Nintendo DS game, it's not necessarily the same case. I realize I said that as I cut to the case here. But Conquest, yes, this is a game that I actually played recently. I think in 2021. No, it was not 22. I think it was 21. Something like that. A point is, I found this at my retro game store. Miraculously, it was a pretty good price. I think maybe whoever was whoever was there that day who was pricing the games was putting them a little too low, or maybe they were old games or games before the whole weird stuff. Point is, I got this in the current decade for a decent price. I can't remember exactly how much because I got it with a few other things, but complete in box, Pokemon Conquest, the whole thing. There's the instruction booklet, there's the game, and then there's all this. And I played this during a family road trip during that summer. I believe it was the 21, and so that was my first time playing it because I never got to play this one when it came out because it was kind of a weird time when it came out, right? Because 2012, yes, it was still like, okay, it was technically at the very end of the DS because the 3DS had already come out. That was a new hotness. And even though Pokemon Black and White released on the regular DS in 2011, 2012, at least for us, they released a year earlier in Japan, it was still odd. And, those sold well enough, Black and White, Black 2 and White 2, although technically Black 2 and White 2, I think, are some of the lowest selling unique Pokemon games that are not remakes or third enhanced versions, because technically they are sequels. So, Pokemon Conquest in there as well, and also, featuring Black and White Pokemon, it was, some great synergy, but still, for being a brand new spin-off game in a different format that still fits Pokemon, it still is in line with it, and being a crossover with a game series that very likely a lot of Pokemon fans did not play, it was a very weird one. I don't know what the sales look like on this one specifically, but while it was talked about and discussed, it's like, wow, this is something kind of neat. And especially in the following years, as Pokemon YouTube really kind of started taking off and building up, specifically during the 6th generation, this was a game that would continue to get talked about, at least in terms of like, oh, how do things fit in with lore, or with this one being a crossover game and having connections, right? And, Arceus playing a pretty prominent role in the story as well. Point is, I really do like it. It is a tactical RPG. That's what you would call it, right? It's kind of neat. You have your little kingdom that you're rebuilding, basically, and all these different fortresses or bases that you capture. And the battles are, you're commanding basically a little army of Pokemon. And, if you've seen gameplay, you probably definitely know it. But it's also neat too how we got some great character portraits too for a lot of the characters in this game. I wish we had them in higher definition because some of them are really nice looking. So there's that. But it's a fun game. It's a fun game, so I was just really thinking about it. I really would like to replay it. I did do a video about it basically right after I got back from the road trip and I had finished this game, so I kind of did like a little video talking about it. I think that, you know, that one is one that deserves to be remade, and I could definitely do it better and kind of approach it in a different way. You know, maybe make it longer, a little more all-encompassing, because I think it was kind of a really general discussion. But, you know, it has got me thinking of, like, could we ever see a re-release of this, or could we ever see some sort of remake or anything, right? Because they're reminiscing about it. So here's the thing. Pokemon Conquest was developed by Koei Tecmo, because a lot of Pokemon spin-off games are made by other companies other than Nintendo. It's really interesting if you go ahead and look into other Pokemon games and see who the developers actually are. You get some interesting stuff. So point is, this was Koei Tecmo and Pokemon's really first interactions, I guess, in this sense, or, you know, big collaborations like this. Again, because this is a crossover game between Pokemon and Nobunaga's Ambition, which Koei Tecmo had developed. And recently, you may realize, or you may notice, you may remember that name from Pokopia. And sorry, there was a cut there. I forgot to bring this up. And even then, I just got the whole thread of Pokopia post. But point is, yeah, Pokopia was developed by Koei Tecmo, or at least, you know, their Omega Force team, because by now, Koei Tecmo's grown a lot bigger, and they have a bunch of definitive different teams that are developing each of their different games, and they're the ones that did the Dragon Quest Builder series, so it makes a lot of sense why they did Pokopia. But point is that Pokopia is a huge game. It was really popular. You know, it is kind of the Pokemon game for the year, maybe aside from like Champions, which is still ongoing and continuing, but Pokopia is the one that released, no, not physically, but it had something in stores, right? And it was $70, big premium price. DLC is coming, but still everybody loves it. Released to critical acclaim. Fans really love it, and the fact that we're getting continued support for it through DLC and other little free updates, and that fans are continuing to play it, is a really good sign. Again, you know, Pokopia, I could go on about Pokopia, having now played it, and having now put in probably close to 200 hours at this point to it. So point is that the connection with Pokemon and Koei Tecmo, their friendship, their working relationship, is alive and well. And so, I'm not saying that we're going to be getting a Pokemon Conquest 2, or a sequel, or remake, or port. Like, I think a port would be a lot more possible should we get to the point where the Switch 2 is putting out a Nintendo DS support. However, some sort of remake or sequel or so on totally could just be done on the console with only one screen. However, I wouldn't say that that's going to happen. I wouldn't necessarily put it on my list of stuff to bet on. It's definitely on my wish list, but not necessarily something I invest in because it's just so far removed. However, I will say that now that we live in a world post new Pokemon Snap, where we got a sequel to a very beloved Pokemon game over 20 years later, even then, you know, that's a different story though, because those were developed by different studios, right? So technically even, right, I guess, you know, if they wanted to do a Pokemon Conquest, I guess they would have to have it still, you know, connect to Nobunaga's Ambition in a way, because it is a connection there. So the point is, okay, point is that the friendship is alive and well, and it's more possible now than it was, say, 2 years ago, or a few years ago, you know, publicly, because they were working on Pokopia for who knows how long. Interesting though, of course, Koei Tecmo did not post about Pokopia all that much leading up to the release. They left all that on Nintendo, because Nintendo was the one publishing it as well, and, you know, that makes sense. But I will say, you know, they're still going, they're still making games. Shout out to Koei Tecmo US. They sent me some free product a few months ago with the Atelier Riser collection. That was fun. You know, different video or whatever, so I won't talk about it much here, but yeah, I think it's possible. Pokopia definitely is going to be the thing for Pokemon this whole year, so that's going to be fun. But however, you know, the original Pokemon Conquest, I feel like maybe it kind of did just come out, I don't want to say necessarily at the wrong time, but there was already a lot going on when it comes to Pokemon, and so I guess I can see how it got lost in the shuffle, and not everybody, you know, picked it up then. However, I'm glad that I have a copy of it. I really did enjoy it when I played it, so I would definitely be looking forward to more, or, you know, when they port it, or if they port it, I would replay it, or, you know, maybe this would be just a good summer to go ahead and replay my copy, because, yeah, I'm very fortunate, very happy to have it. So that's kind of all I got to say about Pokemon Conquest, little refresh or little discussion or reminiscing about it. Maybe some potential for the future. I think that honestly, like I said, I would not bet on a sequel or remake or anything. A port, okay. If we do get those DS games on the Switch 2, sure. Because all the Pokemon spin-off games are happening there. And we're getting the, you know, maybe ports for some of the main series games as we saw at Fire Red Leaf Green. So, you know, it could be possible. However, I don't think it would be the first game put on there. Man, what are all those Pokemon spin-off games on DS? There are a lot. Oh, we got Pokemon Dash. That's something. You know, maybe if you want to see me talk about more Pokemon DS games, we can do that here on this channel. I do actually own quite a bit of them, at least, you know, spin-offs. I think I own nearly every spin-off except for Explorers of Sky, which I do own on my Wii U, which we talked about. So let me know what you think in the comments below about Pokemon Conquest. Do you think it's possible we'll get a reboot, remake, re-release at any point? Do you think that's on the table? Or, you know, maybe we even just get something in the same gameplay style, but just different, right? Not necessarily called Conquest, but something similar in that style that's a different setting, different developer, so on and so on and so on. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed Pokemon Conquest or if it's something that you still need to play. Anyway, if you want to see more discussions like this, like I said, just let me know. Anyway, this is GatorX on the second channel. Catch you all later.